Viva! Thank you.
Thank you, Sebenzile. Is this microphone on? All right, thank you very much, Sebenzile. Molweni, goeiemorgen, good morning. It's wonderful to see this beautiful sea of blue as we emerge from lockdown and we can celebrate our wonderful party together. Thank you to all of you for being here today. Before I introduce our speakers today, I just want to say that it was 27 years ago when millions of South Africans took to the polls to vote for real political freedom. This year, millions of South Africans across the country, but more importantly in the Eastern Cape, have an opportunity to vote for real change. In 1994, we inherited political freedom. But for the past 27 years, millions of South Africans remain trapped in poverty, remain trapped in unemployment, and we can all not truly be free until all of those South Africans achieve the freedom that many of us enjoy. We need to build a truly free South Africa. And the only way to do that is to vote for a political party that believes in freedom, that believes in fairness, that believes in opportunity, and that believes in diversity. So I thought that before we start today, I'm sure you all know those 4 very important values in our party, we could just shout them out to the whole of Nelson Mandela Bay so that the rest of our province can reverberate with the message of change that we are going to hear today from our leaders. So when I say freedom, you say freedom. Freedom!
Freedom!
Fairness!
Fairness!
Opportunity!
Opportunity!
And diversity! In Nelson Mandela Bay and in Pagle in 2016, we elected DA mayors to bring real hope and real change to the Eastern Cape. And I cannot stress the importance, Nqaba and John, of the 2021 local government elections and what it means to truly liberate the people of the Eastern Cape from the ANC's monopoly on power in this province. This is our opportunity to break that monopoly and to liberate freedom-loving South Africans who want to live in safety with a job and with a roof over their heads. Too many South Africans suffer in South Africa, and it is our responsibility to bring that real hope and real change to them over the next few months, and then through our governments in Pagle, Nelson Mandela Bay, and beyond after this local government election. It now gives me great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome our newly elected Speaker of the Nelson Mandela Bay Council to open our meeting with a prayer today. Councillor Johnny Levak, welcome to the podium. If we can give him a round of applause.
Viva Speaker, viva!
Shall we rise? Lord, we thank you for occasions like these, where we can get together as members of the Democratic Alliance to honor and praise you and ask your blessing upon this gathering. You are a faithful, great God, a God who is so powerful yet so loving and kind. Lord, we today commemorate 27 years of democracy in our country, and we confess that many a time we have squandered the opportunities that comes with freedom. Thank you, Lord, that we as a party can participate in our democracy in this country and take a leading role. Today we ask you to implore our citizens, those who are voters, to consider to do the right thing and to put South Africa first. Because as a party, we put South Africa first. Bless us in all our endeavors. Bless us today. And as you brought us safely here, it's the prayer of my heart that you will take us home safely. Bless this gathering and bless everything that is to be said and to be done here. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Speaker. It's wonderful to be able to have a DA speaker in Nelson Mandela Bay again, and I can't think of a better person for the job, and we wish Johnny strength in a very difficult and challenging council environment. Thank you, Johnny. Before we sing the national anthem, I would just like to introduce you to those who are on the stage with me today, and I'd like to start with our Provincial Dawn Chairperson, newly elected Provincial Dawn Chairperson, Nomvano Zibonda. On my left, not on the political spectrum, but on my left, we have our Executive Mayor, your Burgemeester, Sodolopu wetu, Nqaba Bhanga. And then, of course, we're joined by our inimitable and courageous and strong federal leader, John Steenhuisen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud of our party, and today, all around you, you can see the real diversity, the freedom, the fairness, and the opportunity that our party reflects and that we represent. I'm proud of our leadership, and I'm proud of all of you today. And I'd now like us to celebrate this Freedom Day with the national anthem. If we could all rise.
time. Maybe it's because of lockdown, eh? It's great for me today to be addressing you in this fashion after a very long time with all the limitation of the lockdown. You see this thing of Andrew saying that executive mayor. Now I was waiting whether he's going to call me provincial leader. You know, when a person wants to overthrow you, he gives you all these fancy names. And then you forgot that you have the political responsibility because he wants to overthrow you. Democrats who are gathered here today in this beautiful city of Mandela. I have the privilege today to welcome our leader, John Steenhuisen, a friend. I don't want to tell them what you taught me there in the farm. Our provincial chairperson, Andrew Whitfield, our Dawn Eastern Cape provincial chairperson, Nomvano Sibonda. I want to congratulate you today in your new responsibility. Our youth leader, who's been recently elected, members of parliament who are here today, and members of the provincial legislature. Our speaker, John, our councillors, and all our members that we owe responsibility and gratitude for the support of this party. All members of the media who are gathered here today. 27 years ago, our country was a divided nation. I'm so proud to be leading a party that has truly embraced the values of freedom. The difference between the DA and all other parties is that when we have a gathering, we have blacks, we have whites, we have Indians, we have colors. It is a rare occasion that in many other parties, when they talk about freedom, they only talk about the freedom of one race alone. Others might be gathered in Pretoria today saying they're celebrating freedom, but they will be talking only to black people only. Others, they might be gathered somewhere in the Northern Cape celebrating freedom only for colored only. Others might be gathered in Durban and only celebrating the freedom for Indians only. In a DA meeting, you have white people, you have colored people, you have Indian people, and you have all South Africans together in one meeting. Because the conversation about building a nation, it should be an inclusive conversation where South Africans sit together and share the values of freedom. Therefore, the DA represents the true meaning of what freedom is all about. And I think it is our responsibility as a democratic alliance to move forward in embracing and teaching South Africans what is the meaning of non-racialism. I want my children to live in a society where race doesn't matter to them, where opportunities for them will not be determined on the basis of their color of skin. I want that for whites, I want that for blacks, I want that for coloreds, I want that for Indians. That's an envisaged vision of our fathers and our mothers like Charlotte Pagle. The President has defined this Freedom Day in celebration of this great woman who sacrificed her life in servicing and fighting for all our freedom. Today, we can have a voice and we can also have different views in this country and a right to vote because Charlotte Mqaba stood selflessly and fought against a very brutal system. But what does freedom mean to South Africans? That in Nelson Mandela alone, we have 42% unemployment rate. Meaning in 100, like people who are gathered here, half of them are unemployment. The question we should ask ourselves was that a freedom that we wanted was the freedom of unemployment. Many of our children can't afford to go to school. Many of our university students are fighting under a promise they were given that there will be free education. More than 14% of municipalities under the leadership of the ANC have collapsed. They can't pay their staff, which means they can't even deliver basic services like water, electricity to their people. This is how an ANC footprint of freedom means. That you free people, but you oppress them by breaking down all systems that are available. Nelson Mandela Municipality, under the ANC government, have lost 1.6 billion rand of the equitable share. And guess what? Who saved the people was the DA. And I'm proud to be standing here today to say the 1.6 billion rand that was taken away from this municipality, we're able to save, because we care for the people. Basic services in the Eastern Cape municipalities have collapsed. Amotole municipality alone can't even pay their staff, can't even deliver water to the communities that they serve. Because what happened is that the ANC have stolen each and every cent in that municipality. Since January until May, their staff and the people who work in that municipality can't get paid. Our youth in the Eastern Cape can't find work. If I'm correct, 52% of the people of the Eastern Cape in terms of the expanded unemployment rate have given up looking for jobs because they can't find work. Our businesses are closing. Levi's, Zara, you can go to the boardwalk, John Steenhuisen. All the restaurants and shops have closed down. Many stop about this thing of Cubana, man. All our children are losing jobs under an ANC government because of a government that was incapable of dealing with the scourge of the coronavirus and just closed everything because of lack of oversight and understanding of how to run a government. Many companies in Nelson Mandela in the Eastern Cape have packed up and they are leaving the province because the government of the ANC can't provide basic things to businesses. And I say to the Premier, you're saying you want to attract investment, but you can't keep the ones that have come. VW can't operate smoothly because of the unrest that are happening in the unit road, which could affect close to 7,000 workers. We have no water into our taps. It's a natural phenomenon. Because the ANC could not be able to maintain the infrastructure of water. We owe billions and billions of rand in the underground infrastructure that was not maintained. We've just taken over the city. We're dealing with water leaks. We're putting up a program for water augmentation to make sure that the water that we get from the Kharit Dam to the Notre Dame is able to service our people. And I must tell you that we have a problem We have not reached day zero. We have reached in this city day incompetence because of a lack of leadership that was unable to provide strategic direction in how to manage the water crisis. We have, all of us together, act responsibly and manage our water systems. We have to reduce our water consumption from 300 megaliters to 250 megaliters. If we don't do that, there are areas in this city, like Kwanobuhle, Shalo, Woma Heights, who might run out of water on the 1st of July. How do we do that? We have to make sure that we put restrictions in our communities. But we are not going to jump with that. We have to mobilize and communicate to our people and explain to them the problem of water. We must not impose ourselves as government. We do have a plan as a DA to make sure that we don't reach day zero. In Cape Town, we are the best in the country and in the world in water management. We are learning from the lessons in the Western Cape. Let's work together. Let's go out there and tell our people about this water crisis. We have to make sure that rolling blackouts across the country are dealt with. We have to clean our streets. The DA government is doing each and everything that it could. We have turned this city to a construction site. Our government is committed in making sure that we clean our streets, we maintain our roads. We have invested not less than 120 million rand in road surfacing and also maintaining potholes and also road building. That's why you see wherever you go, people who are wearing overalls fixing our streets. Because when the DA governs, we govern for the people. We don't steal the money from our people. We are very concerned of the vandalism that is happening in this city, of our buildings, our walls, of our schools. I was so shocked when I was told that the school that I used to go to, my first school, they've entered there, they've taken everything in the school in terms of wiring. Our robots and our traffic lights continue to be sabotaged and be attacked by criminals because of cable theft. We've put up systems in the team. We've deployed not less than 900 security officers all over to our walls and to our municipal facilities to protect them. We're going to extend the security plan, including CCTVs, to make sure even the drugs selling here in this part of town in Central were able to deal with the people who are selling drugs to our children and destroying our communities. Very soon we'll be announcing a plan in dealing with that. We are so concerned about the violence and crime that happens in Helenville. It reminds me of Xavier Jansen, Nalisha Brooks, and many of the children who have died in the northern areas because of gangsterism. Many people are saying I'm so selective when I say in the northern areas, our children do not know what freedom of peace is because they continue to be killed, raped, murdered by gangsters who are merciless with no defense. The DA have extended the short quarter in the northern areas in Helenville to make sure that we can detect the shootings that are happening in that community. I must inform you that we have detected, in terms of statistics, the growing number of murder and crime in New Brighton. New Brighton have become the worst in terms of murder and killing of the people. Motherwell have become a hotspot in terms of assassination. We are going to work together with the police to make sure that we fight crime and protect our people. One of our members was hijacked in the service of the Democratic Alliance. We have to mobilize our people wherever we are as branches of the Democratic Alliance to form up neighborhood watches. I've assigned John Best to mobilize our people around town in order for us to have a shield in protection of our people. In the location, John, ambulances do not enter. And it's normal. Under the ANC government, it was normal. That is fine. Ambulances do not enter. But myself and Andrew Whitfield, who stay in Woma, ambulances enter in Woma. But the poor women of Motherwell, KwaZulu, Zwide, and our grandmothers cannot be serviced by the Department of Health. We've taken a decision that will work with the police to make sure that our people are serviced on the ground. Our municipality in Kocha under Mayor Horatio Hendricks is doing a phenomenal job. They have received clean audits since the DA took over. If you go to St. Francis, you can see the DA work, construction of our roads, and that's the only municipality in the Eastern Cape that have had a plastic road. We have built streets, traffic lights, we've put up a security plan under that kind of leadership. What we need to do is that if you want to feel real freedom, you must make sure that you go out in the Eastern Cape and mobilize as many people to tell them a story of Kocha and to tell them a story of Nelson Mandela. Because when we govern as a DA, people can feel the real freedom. As we are going to be confronted with the next local government election, you must work as if you are crazy to make sure that you liberate your children from the chains of the ANC. The ANC will never again recover from the scandalous mismanagement of the state. They are fighting against each other. It's very conducive and fertile for us to go out to the streets of Charlotte, to go out to the streets of Galverdale, to go out to the streets of KwaZulu and tell our people about how great a DA government could do. And the people of Nelson Mandela have a revived love and support for this blue machine. Let's go out and build DA municipalities in order to teach our people and our children how great freedom is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nqaba, for those inspiring words. We've got our very clear marching orders from our provincial leader. Not our executive mayor, it's our provincial leader today. I just want that very clear for the record. There's no coup d'etat happening on this stage. Nqaba is an excellent provincial leader and he can have that job. We now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you that on social media, in the build-up to today's feels like a historic event, because we haven't been allowed to have these events for a very, very long time. And we ran a competition on social media to identify poets or cultural artists who would like to come and do a poem today. So we ran a competition and we got 2 poets selected from a pool of applications in that contest. And it now gives me great pleasure to introduce our first poet today, who is Michelle Pagle. You can give Michelle a very big blue DA round of applause. Thank you very much. Over to you, Michelle.
Morning. Freedom. wished to be free. Oh, how we hoped it would be. Oh, how we dreamed all will be loved. Oh, how we thought for freedom we had fought. Are we free? Are we really, really free? Eyes wide open, what do you see? Citizens walking to and others run. Citizens believing riches will come. Citizens hoping for more than some. I am free in my mind. I decide on my happiness. I am free in my work. I could do more, I could do less. I am free in my body. More training or less. I am free in my soul. To Jesus I confess. I am shackled to stop this government corruption. I cannot change the stealing with no interruption. I do hope to see a massive eruption to stop this carnage happening around me. I am free to believe that love will win. I am free to expect their punishment for this sin. I am free to hope there will be no pardon. I am free to know there is hope on the horizon with the DA.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll come here quickly. Right, thank you very much, Michelle. I think we can give her one big, more blue round of applause. We are a city filled with unbelievable talent, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Michelle. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our next poet, Pagle, who will come and deliver his poem to all of you today. If we can give him a round of applause as well, please. Thank you. You've got to clap until he gets to the stage, people.
Molweni, ninjani? All right now. I must say that I'm very blessed to be given this momentous occasion to express my feelings in this poem. I come from Vierplaats. I stay in a shack. I work as a security guard. But most importantly, I'm very looking forward for the end of October when the Democratic Alliance takes total over of the city of Nelson Mandela Bay. And I hope that this something that I wrote here will also touch you the way that it has touched me. Here it goes. Freedom Day, where are you? Oh, Freedom Day, my soul yearns for you. A day for freedom that we were to celebrate, to commemorate those who laid their lives for us. But where are you? Or am I blind to see the obvious? All I see in front of me is chaos, destruction. The youth of today is either drunk or are in drugs. Do you even exist in the archives of this country? This land of our forefathers, where is it going to? Many died, many gave up their lives. Was that in vain? Was that for this corruption we see in our government, where dog eats dog, the poor are neglected and uncared for? Oh, Freedom Day. My sisters are selling their bodies in Central. My brothers are on Nyayope or Maparas. Communities are left scarred. Where are you, Freedom Day? Today is 27 years since you were born, yet I have not seen your face. Maybe others can see you. To me, you are just a figment of my imagination. Until real change comes in this country, you will just be a memory to me. I will keep on hoping that one day I shall see you. Thank you.
Viva DA, viva! Pambili DA, pambili! Pansy ANC corruption, pansy! Pambili! Nqaba Bhanga, Executive Mayor Nelson Mandela Bay, and Executive Mayor with the majority later this year. Moweni nonke. Siyajabula namhlanje. Fellow Democrats, what a great place to celebrate Freedom Day here in Nelson Mandela Bay, one of the most beautiful cities in South Africa. And what makes it even more beautiful is that we've got a DA-led coalition government here. Isn't that what makes it great? It also has the most friendliest people, and that's why I love visiting the Bay. So thank you, Mayor Bhanga, Andrew Whitfield, the provincial leadership, our public representatives, but most importantly, our activists for being here today. Let's give our activists a big round of applause. Today we celebrate 27 years since our first free and fair election in South Africa. And any one of us who voted back in that historic election remembers exactly where they voted. They remember what it felt like. They know what they did on that day. The moment was so big for our history that it made a lasting impression that all of us will never forget. Freedom finally reigned in South Africa. On that day, and for many, many years after that, South Africans were filled with hope for the future. Putting a cross on that first ballot paper symbolized the freedom that so many people had sacrificed and so many people had died for. But I think you must agree with me, on this Freedom Day, 27 years later, That symbolic freedom of 1994 has not yet translated for most people. It hasn't translated into economic freedom for most people. The freedom to access opportunity, the freedom to earn a decent wage, the freedom to pursue big dreams and ambitions and your goals, the freedom to raise your children in a better world than the one that you grew up in. Now, the struggle for a democratic nation may have ended in 1994, but the struggle for economic freedom is still very far from having been won. For many, it hasn't even begun. We have 30 million South Africans who live in poverty. 42% of our citizens are unemployed. They do not have the dignity of a job, they've got no way to provide for their families, and they live in misery and in squalor. But if we're to have any chance of victory in the struggle for freedom in South Africa, we've all got to agree, first of all, what we're fighting for. We need to agree what freedom really means for us. Now, many members of the ruling party seem to have a completely different idea about what freedom means. For many of them, it means the freedom to steal. It means freedom from accountability, freedom from consequences and repercussions, and freedom from prosecution for the terrible crimes committed against the people of our beautiful country. Many of them consider the ongoing looting of the money that belongs to the people of South Africa as their reward, the spoils of war. And so around the country today, you're going to hear a lot from the governing party. You're going to hear them talking a lot about the past, our pre-1994 South Africa. You're going to hear them talking about people who are long since gone. And the reason they can only talk about the past is because they've got no present and they know they've got no future. They can't talk about a Nqaba Bhanga because every one of their mayors, wherever they govern across this country, is rotten and corrupt and presides over a crumbling municipality. They can't talk about a Randall Williams because the last two mayors in Tshwane stole all the money and all the opportunity. They can't talk about a Horatio Hendricks up the road in Kucha. They've got nobody in their party who comes close. So you're going to hear a lot about Charlotte Matlake today. And may her soul rest in peace, and may we honor her contribution always. But Democrats, I wonder what Charlotte Matlake would think if she was here today. I wonder if Charlotte Matlake would be proud of the fact that the women in our country live in fear every single day of their lives. That many of them, a simple walk to a bus stop can become a fatal day in their life. That young children are raped and murdered on the streets of South Africa every single day. I wonder what Charlotte Matlake would think about a government with a president that promised us tough action on gender-based violence over a year ago. And yet all we've seen is femicide and gender-based violence go up. There is a war against women in South Africa, and that war is not being won because this government won't take it seriously. And that's why it's up to us to step into the breach and to take power wherever we can. And that means starting right here in Nelson Mandela Bay. And so I hope you can hear the wind blowing on this microphone, and I hope you can feel the wind blowing on your face as we stand here today at the Donkin Reserve. Because those are the winds of change that are going to start like a whirlwind here in Dubai, and they're going to sweep across South Africa. The winds of change. Now, in 2 days' time, the ANC Secretary General, Mr. Ace Magashule. You all know die Bender. The Cyril en die Boksembende daar in die ANC. In 2 days' time, he's going to reach the deadline for his step-aside rule. Why on earth he was given 30 days is beyond me. As if in 30 days you can cleanse the corruption, the crime, the mismanagement, and the theft of public money that you've perpetuated over the last 10 years. His position was untenable 30 days ago as it is today. But nevertheless, that deadline will come on Thursday. And what happens when this deadline arrives is as significant for you as a citizen as it is for the governing party. Because the truth is that people like Magashule and every other cadre who have stolen from the people, cheated the tender system, and have advanced the interests of their friends and their family, have stolen the freedom of our ordinary citizens in South Africa. They've stolen your freedom. Corruption is not a victimless crime. Don't let anybody tell you that. Its victims are each and every man and woman and child whose dreams of a better life have been deferred over and over again because their leaders cannot keep their hands off public money. Dis 'n skande. Dis 'n skande dat hulle nie skaam is vir wat hulle gedoen met die publiek se toekoms in ons land. Greed is the enemy of freedom. Greed is the enemy of freedom. And the bigger the greed of this ruling elite in South Africa, the more unattainable the dream of freedom becomes for our people. So tomorrow's step-aside deadline isn't just about one man's corrupt, desperate attempts to dodge party discipline. It's a test of this government's commitment to the freedom of the people they swore to serve. But Democrats, there's good news as well. There's good news, Democrats. Because your future and your freedom doesn't lie entirely in the hands of this corrupt government. You have a big say in it. There may be things wrong with our country today, but our democracy still works just fine. And this means that you have all the power to determine your own future. Last week, the election date for this year was announced. Can I hear when it is? Let's see, let's do a test. I can't hear you guys. I can't hear it. There we go. Go and put it in your diary. Write it on your fridge. Put it back on the toilet door. Write it in big letters, because that is the day that you get to take back power from this government and give it back to the people of this country. Ons sit sonder krag, maar ons is nie kragloos. Ons het die krag en die krag lê in ons stem, en ons moet daai stem dik maak in South Africa. And if you're still doubtful about the role a good government can make in your life, for those people who think, well, politics doesn't matter, I'm going to go down to the beach here in Nelson Mandela Bay. I must say it's a beautiful beach. It's a great beach. You guys have got good beaches here. Those people who decide they'd rather go to a bowls tournament on election day, I've got news for them. Because you only need to look at the recent report by Ratings Africa, which found that 7 of the 8 metros in South Africa were financially unsustainable. The only metro with sustainable finances was the DA-run city of Cape Town. Now, had the coalition of corruption not taken over here in Nelson Mandela Bay, I've no doubt that we'd be sitting with 2 DA-run municipalities with financial sustainability, but they stole the money, and they didn't spend the money, and it got sent back. And one of the reasons we sit without water is because when this coalition government was first in place, they got money to start drilling boreholes and looking for water so we'd be able to deal with it. Well, do you know what the coalition with corruption did? They didn't spend that money for 2 years, so Treasury took that money back. So if you ask why your taps are dry or running dry, look back to what has happened there. But thank goodness we've got a mayor and a MACO that are determined to return the situation, to turn around, to make sure that that water runs fast and it runs sweet. The same report, that Ratings Africa report, found that all the non-metro municipalities that were financially stable were also in the Western Cape. The exception being Midvaal in Gauteng, and of course our friends up the road in Kruger. Now, there's no coincidence here. This isn't lucky. This isn't the dice falling in the right way. It's because when voters put their trust in the DA, their lives get better, they are more fulfilled, and this is supported by evidence across every single criteria. When you change to the DA, life gets better. Now, this isn't to say that everything's perfect where the DA governs, and we all know governance is hard. And Nqaba often, when we talk, he said, "Oh, you've given me the hardest job I've ever had in my life. You know, I want to go back to Bishu." And we keep saying to him, "No, you've got work to do here, Mr. Bhanga. Mr. Mayor, you've got work to do." And we're not going to let him go anywhere until this is the best run metro in South Africa. And I'm not only talking about financial management. I'm talking about every single measurement of a better life. Every measurement of freedom. Let's take jobs and unemployment. There's a reason why thousands of people leave their provinces and go to the Western Cape every month. If you look at the jobs data that's released by Statistics South Africa, every quarter you will see that your chances of finding a job, of getting that work that you so desperately need, is much higher in the Western Cape than it is anywhere else in the country. There are far fewer people there that have given up looking for work. So even before people vote with their ballots, they vote with their feet. And that is why they are, every man, every woman, every child that moves to the Western Cape is in search of better opportunities, better schools, better healthcare, or simply better access to services like water and electricity, and is casting a vote now for a competent government. Now, these successes don't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. Nelson Mandela Bay wasn't restored to its former glory in a single day. It took years to undo the mess in the city of Cape Town, to turn the metro's fortunes around. And after the initial shaky period under coalition government, finally the DA in 2011 was given its own mandate. Having such an outright majority frees you up to implement the whole plan without having to make compromises, without having the handbrake being pulled up by 50 other hands that are on it, without having 10 hands on the steering wheel trying to steer the ship in different directions. And here in the Bay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Back in 2016, the DA came so close. So close. 12,500 votes. That's all we were short of for an absolute majority here in the Bay. And so we ended up with the next best thing, which was a coalition government in which we played a central role. But we know how that story went. Barely 2 years into this government turning the city round, and just as our plans were gaining momentum, just as business confidence was improving, just as we were starting to turn the tide against crime, just as we were starting to get an efficient, effective bus service that's able to transport people safely to and from their homes to their places of work, Nelson Mandela Bay fell back into the hands of the thieves and the crooks and the corrupt, who abandoned all of those projects so that they could provide themselves with money and resources and give their friends contracts. Now, we didn't have enough of a grip to prevent this from happening. And we found a disloyal councillor who was seduced by the offers of the thieves and the corrupt. And it's taken us full 2 years. We never gave up. It would have been easy to walk away and just say, well, there it goes, there's the bay. We didn't. We fought tooth and nail every single day. We went to court. We spoke to people. Nqaba Bhanga worked tirelessly to build together a new consensus that can bring hope and change. And finally, the bay is back in the hands where it belongs. The bay is led by a man who is a servant leader, who doesn't treat the people as his servants. He regards himself as a servant. Not here to be rich, not here to make a fortune, not here to scream around in fancy cars and to be able to line the pockets of his friend. A man who loves his city, who loves the people of the city, and who loves to serve and make a difference. So let's give him a big round of applause. If you want change in the Bay, and you want to put that change onto fast forward, there's only one way to do it, and you came so close in the last election. It's time to give the DA its own majority here in the Bay so that we can bring the change, we can work for you, and we can make the difference. It's time for us to have a mandate to govern, a mandate to put the city as its rightful place, as the shining beacon on a hill in the Eastern Cape that sends a message out to Crawfordnet, to Craddock, to the reaches of the former Transkei, and says your life doesn't have to be a life of misery. You don't have to live in poverty. That you can have schools that work, a municipality that serves you, but if you want it, if you really want it, you've got to play your part. And that part means getting out to vote. And those votes could have come from just a fraction of the people who stayed at home on the day, who felt politics wasn't for them. And I think if anything that this last year of lockdown has showed you, it's that freedom is not guaranteed. Freedom is not guaranteed. And this government has got so power drunk on the powers that have been given to it by the Disaster Management Act, it feels like we're never going to get out of a state of disaster because these power drunk kleptocrats just want the power to tell you what to do, to tell you what to wear, to tell you where to go. With everywhere corner there's someone with a clipboard. That is the totalitarian dream for South Africa. Freedom is not guaranteed. Freedom is something you've got to fight for every single day. And we must never, ever give up on that. And just think where this metro would have been had we had 5 years of a coalition government with the DA in charge. Just imagine how much better life would have been. And I've no doubt that many of those absent voters would have got themselves registered and voted for the DA in a heartbeat if they knew just how different things could be. But there is an opportunity, and this next election is the opportunity for us to set that right. And that's why I want to ask each and every one of you here in Nelson Mandela Bay, but also across the rest of South Africa, to think very, very carefully about the town or city you want to live in, the place where you raise your family, or perhaps think of starting a career or building a business. In an ideal world, what would this place look like? Do things work the way they should? Do you have dependable basic services? If you were to fall ill or contract COVID, does this place have sufficient healthcare facilities? If the rain stayed away and the dams threatened to run dry, is there a plan in place to avert disaster? Do your children attend a school where you know they're getting a decent education? Do you see companies investing in this place? Do you see yourself getting a job? And these are the questions you must ask yourself as citizens before any election. Because only a committed, capable and clean government can deliver all of those things to you. If you don't vote for that type of government, you will end up with the opposite. If you don't vote for that government, you will end up with the opposite. And the Eastern Cape demonstrates this principle very, very clearly. Nqaba was telling me earlier that almost all the municipalities in this province are under extreme financial distress. They owe millions of rands to Eskom. Most of them cannot pay their creditors. at least 14 of them are considered economically and financially unsustainable. Local government has collapsed in the Eastern Cape. And you don't need to believe me, you just need to listen to your own Premier who will tell you how bad things are under his watch here in the Eastern Cape. But it doesn't have to be like this. Things can be different if you vote for it. And the best example is 80 kilometers up this road, in a place called Pagle municipality, which has had an outright DA majority since 2016. And that difference of the outright majority in that municipality has made a huge and fundamental difference to the lives of the people in that municipality. Since 2016, almost 1,600 households have received electricity for the first time. Imagine, in 1994 we had freedom. The first time many of those people had electricity was in 2016. That is an incredible achievement. New water treatment works have been constructed. Old ones upgraded. Many kilometers of roads have been resurfaced and thousands of potholes have been repaired. 60 new vehicles added to the fleet, and a further 130 vehicles and plant were refurbished. In 2018 and 2019 alone, more than 1,800 historic title deeds were handed over to the rightful beneficiaries, and 110 have been handed over in this financial year. So when the ANC and the EFF talk about land justice and giving people what's rightfully theirs, they talk about it, we do it. We do it in Nelson Mandela Bay, we do it in Pagle. We want you to own a home, we want you to own property, we want you to have an asset that you can use. And we don't just talk about it, we do it. And that is the DA difference. The ANC, there's a lot of yada yada, there's no ching ching. In the DA municipalities, it's ching ching, a lot less yada yada. Pagle last year as well passed its first R1 billion budget. So in a sea of absolute abject failure across the Eastern Cape, there stands an island of excellence. And it isn't a coincidence. They were given a mandate by the people who had the courage to vote a DA majority into place and are living and better. Because we don't steal. We're not corrupt. We don't empower our families. We don't protect the corrupt. We simply do the basics of good governance. It's not rocket science. Don't steal the money. Appoint the right people into the right positions. Make sure that you serve the people well. Focus on the basics. And that is how you give people a better chance at freedom. And if that sounds like the kind of place you want to live in, well, the next move is yours. And the first thing you've got to do is make sure your name is on the voters' roll, which means we've got to get more than 12,500 people registered here in Nelson Mandela Bay so that we can get them onto the voters' roll. So the next time you're at a braai or a shisanyama, or you're sitting at the bowling club or at the golf club and somebody's moaning about this or moaning about that, the first question you've got to ask them is, are you registered to vote? And if you aren't registered to vote, what are you doing about getting registered to vote? And every one of us has to ask those questions. And it may not be easy and it may not be comfortable, but there's no use complaining if you're not voting. And there's no such thing as not voting, because not voting means that you're voting for corruption, you're voting for unemployment, you're voting for maladministration, and you're voting for a failed state. And so, when the 27th of October comes around, you've got to go out and do your bit to end up with Nelson Mandela Bay with a DA majority, so that we can have a mayor with his full attention and full hands on the throttle, driving this municipality forward, creating jobs, improving services, ensuring that this municipality advances. That's what we need. Yes, there's plenty a DA government can do for you, but the first move is your own. And as we celebrate Freedom Day across the length and breadth of South Africa today, we must remember that freedom is not guaranteed, and that it is a daily fight to ensure that freedom reigns in South Africa. And that means standing up for our constitution and the rule of law. It means fighting for ensuring that every South African, regardless of the color of their skin or their background, has an opportunity to be all they can be and contribute all they can to building a future. That we have a capable state that works for its citizens, not against them. And that we have a social market economy that creates jobs and opportunity and lifts many, many more people out of poverty and into opportunity. And there's a great song that was released today by PJ Powers and the Mzansi Choir. And I think that that song, launched especially for Freedom Day, sums up exactly where the power lies. And the wonderful lines from that song go like this. If we stand strong, we can feel the power taking us higher and higher and higher. Up we go. Bayete Mzansi, our country, our land, our home. It's time for change in the Bay. It's time for a DA majority in the Bay. And it's time for change in South Africa. So when you look at that clock behind us, you turn around and have a look at it, and somebody asks you, what is the time? What's the answer? It's time for change. It's time for change. Let's bring that change. Let's be that change. The work starts now. We can't sleep till the 27th of October. Let's go out there and bring the change that this country needs so that we can all prosper together. Bayete Mzansi.
Thank you very much, John. Inspiring words as always. And Nqaba, you're very worried that I'm coming for your job. A job that I really don't want or need. But there's one job that I can't have, no matter how much I want it. And that is to be the chairperson of the DA Women's Network. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome our DA Women's Network chairperson in the Eastern Cape, the Honourable Nomvano Zibonda, to conclude today's event. Nomvano.
Thank you, Andrew.
Viva
Viva DA, viva! Viva DA Youth, viva! Viva Don, viva! Wathina bafazi! Wathina Mbokoto! Democrats, let me greet first our federal leader and our provincial leader and everyone that has graced this event today. I'm reminded, since it's Freedom Day, one of my favorite quotes by Audre Lorde. She says, and I open quote, "I am not free if any woman is unfree, even if her shackles are different from mine." Close quote. Democrats, as we go home today, as we conclude this Freedom Month of April, let us remember that women of this country are not free. We constantly fight for our freedom. We constantly fight for our freedom from femicide, from GBV. And today it would be amiss of me not to ask each and every one of you today to commit to helping women fight this scourge of gender-based violence. Right in this municipality, a few days ago, in an old age home, someone broke in and raped a woman. Right in this municipality, a few weeks ago, someone brutally murdered a gay man. That is not freedom. As John has said today, that a simple walk to the bus stop can prove to be fatal for a woman. We constantly have to look at our back as we move forward. We constantly have to live in fear for our lives. All we are fighting for as women is to be seen for who we are. We are mothers. We are leaders. We are community builders. And today, I want us, as we go back, to commit and say, count me in this fight for total emancipation of women and children in our country. It doesn't matter how many freedoms we have. If our mothers, if our sisters, if our children are not free, our freedom is meaningless. I'm not going to be long because my role is to thank every one of you here. Let me first thank our federal leader, John Steenhuisen, for the beautiful speech and the message he's given us today. Our provincial leader, Nqaba Bhanga, for the great work that he's doing in our province and the great work that he's doing in Nelson Mandela Bay. And let me thank our public reps for all the work that they're doing, supporting our mayor, and finally, and most importantly, our activists and our staff who have made this day possible. Without all of you, it wouldn't have been possible. I thank you.
Thank you very much.